Boom! We are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the Nolan Hawkeye Anthony YouTube channel. And I thank all of you for being here, wherever you may be. And of course, however you may be listening. Well, guys, the Iowa Hawkeyes are fresh off the shoulders, off the backs of one of their best, if not the best, performances of the year with their shellacking victory over the Wisconsin Badgers. They defeated the Badgers to capture the bowl 42 to 10. It was a complete victory from pretty much beginning until end. They were trailing after the first quarter, 3-0. But I would say for 90% of the game, Iowa dominated. And realistically, the 3 points that Wisconsin scored was in the first quarter was less to do with their success, I would say, as much as Iowa having penalties, right or wrong call, you be the judge. Nonetheless, they were called. From what I saw, I think in real time, it's much more difficult to make that sort of call than when you see it in slow motion. But essentially, what they were calling on the Iowa Hawkeyes was Y.A. Black doing a quick, sudden movement right before the snap. Um, and that happens all the time in college. It happens all the time in football. Uh, it just really matters when it happens. And of course, if one of the players or the coaches starts to point it out, then the officials become keen on it and they focus on it. So, but nonetheless, Iowa really dominated pretty much from beginning to end. I still stand by, as I said in my post-game video, I think this is the second best performance that Iowa has had all year. Well, let me rephrase that. I think the victory over Minnesota is their best victory overall. But if you are to ask the question, what was their best game from beginning to until the end of them just totally dominating against a somewhat decent opponent, I would say Wisconsin. So I'd probably go Minnesota 1, Wisconsin 2. It was a great performance. We'll see what Wisconsin is able to do to finish the year and see how good or not good this victory looks by the end of the season when all is said and done. All right, guys, this is, of course, the game preview for Iowa versus UCLA, one of the new Big Ten teams. As I said, when Iowa was going to play Washington, this is very interesting. It's good that the Big Ten has some newness to it, some variety to it. It'll be interesting to see what Iowa does traveling halfway across the country. I don't think that it is as difficult to do nowadays, especially with how much money some of these Power Four level schools have. The football programs, the basketball programs, how much money they have. I mean, they are really traveling well. But it still is nonetheless difficult to play in an environment that you're not familiar with. Iowa hasn't been to Southern California since the loss to Stanford in the Rose Bowl. So that unfamiliarity, we'll see if that plays a factor. Before we get into the game preview, checking out the stats and all of that, I just want to say, obviously, if there's any UCLA fans that are watching this video, I am an Iowa Hawkeye fan. Most of what I discuss are just stats and facts, unbiased stuff. But of course, I will be giving my assessment and prediction at the end of the game. Also, please consider smashing that subscribe button. Let's get this channel to 2,000 subs. Check out my Iowa basketball 2024-2025 season preview. And without further ado, let's get into this. All right, guys, let's talk about Brendan Sullivan. And I want you guys to comment The commenting helps the video within the algorithm, but I am curious to see what you guys think. How do you guys think Brendan Sullivan did? My assessment, my quick assessment on Brendan Sullivan is a few things. One, he needs to be the starter the rest of the way. Cade McNamara has had his time. There's nothing left for him to play for. He has not played well enough to warrant going back to him and basically having this unadulterated, unwavering loyalty to him. I don't dislike the guy personally. I think he's a good leader. He's a good guy. But as far as what he's able to do in the actual games, he has not ever been able to do better than what he did for Michigan in the year that they started to have their rebuild as a program. Iowa needs to see in complete fashion what they have in Brendan Sullivan. Brendan Sullivan also needs to be able to utilize this time. It's in his interest and Iowa's best interest to utilize this time to get even more familiar with Tim Lester's offense and for Tim Lester to see exactly what he has in Brendan Sullivan and what Brendan Sullivan needs to work on in the offseason to increase and escalate his game to the next level. He did have a actually really good QBR. I'm going to show you guys. It was top 5 in the Big Ten. The weekly performance. I think he was 4th. He had the 4th best QBR of all Big Ten quarterbacks. I'll show you guys what the rating is here momentarily. He Even though he did not pass the ball a ton, I think he passed the ball 10 times. Most of his throws, if not all of them, were on target. He could have went 100% passing the ball had there not been drops. Yes, the pass to Jarriett Bowie was a little bit behind Jarriett Bowie, but he should have made that grab. It was more than a catchable ball. Let's go ahead and just get this pulled up here so you guys can follow along with me. But his main thing, as I said in Iowa's post-game video against Wisconsin, the main thing that Brendan Sullivan adds to this game is his legs. It puts tremendous strain on the opposing team to know that not only do they have to defend Iowa's really solid offensive line as a whole, elite running back in Caleb Johnson, and really a good to elite running back room as a whole, but also to know that they have to have disciplined eyes on Brendan Sullivan. Okay, that is definitely a lot, and it puts defenses on their heels. You could tell in the game against Wisconsin that the Wisconsin defenders were just completely out of sorts. They were absolutely on their heels when it came to Brendan Sullivan, and that is what Iowa needs. Iowa needs a guy that is serviceable passing the ball, doesn't need to be crazy, but just doesn't make a ton of mistakes and makes most of the throws that are there, and a guy that can extend plays outside of the scheme and outside of the normal run of play to get things going. That is what Iowa's offense needs to be sparked up and propel this offense forward past what we've seen with Cade McNamara. Here is Brendan Sullivan's stats against Wisconsin. Let's see here. 70% completion percentage. He had a 181.1 passer rating, 93 passing yards, 1 touchdown as a whole. And his QBR was 74.9, which again, I believe it was good enough for 4th. I'll get that pulled up here. So I was actually 1 spot off. He was 5th, and QBR takes everything into account. Every single play, the quarterback's ability to run, impact on each play, makeable plays, passing the football, touchdowns, rush out, everything. Okay, it's not a perfect stat, but it is, in my opinion, the best we have in judging the impact that a quarterback has overall for his team's success. And he was fifth with a 74.9. Okay. I don't believe Cade McNamara ever this year had above a 74.9. Okay. His grade was a 38.6. His highest graded game came against Washington, where he had a 72.8 QBR. Approach it. And Brendan Sullivan has had back-to-back games, Northwestern and Wisconsin, above a 73 QBR. Okay, so those are my thoughts on Brendan Sullivan. Let's go ahead and get this train back to the game overview. And for what it's worth, the UCLA quarterback was second. Ethan Garbers had a QBR of 94.4, which is really stellar. Since we're here, we may as well see what his QBR is for the year. UCLA's quarterback is sixth with a 71.9. So he's definitely an above average quarterback this year. That'll definitely be something to pay attention to for the Iowa Hawkeyes. We haven't really heard a ton, or I haven't really heard a ton about him, but that's a good number. That definitely is a good number. Iowa comes into this game as a 6.5 point favorite, even though this will be on the road at UCLA. At the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, I definitely considered going to this game. I don't think I'm going to because it's a little too late, and I just work a ton. Um, Minimum, even though I am fairly close, it would still be a minimum. I would say $500 trip to go there with a decent seat, transportation, the whole 9 yards. But Iowa does play USC next year on the road as well. And I fully do intend on taking advantage of Iowa having more games close to me than before, where Iowa's games were always in the Midwest, on the East Coast, so on and so on. ESPN Football Power Index gives Iowa a 68.1% chance to win this game, and they give UCLA a pretty much a 32% chance to win this game. That means if these two teams played 10 times in the same exact circumstances, Iowa would win close to 7 out of 10 times. The passing leaders, of course, Cade McNamara is still the passing leader for Iowa, but he will not be the starter. I know the Iowa media is trying to set up this kind of drama where when Cade gets back, Iowa's coaching staff will have a decision to make. No, there's no decision to make. Even if Cade McNamara didn't have a concussion, Brendan Sullivan would have started against Wisconsin this week. So there is another thing that I want to show you guys, which is Iowa's football power index rating. Last year, Iowa's FPI rating was usually less than what their actual record indicated. They were one of the lone teams to be like below 30 with 10 wins, nine wins. And it was because their stats were not the best. They were defying the stats, they were defying odds, winning football games. This year, it's the other way, where what their rating is and what their stats say, they should basically be like maybe a one-loss team, at most two-loss team. So, and that's why I've been saying that I believe that Iowa, and this is what they still have to play for, and what Iowa fans have to look forward to, which is that they need to will themselves closer to what they really are, which is what FPI is indicating, rather than what their losses, especially the loss against Michigan State and Iowa State, indicate. And I think as we progress through the season and as we saw against Wisconsin, they're going to show themselves to be more in that upper echelon because they really are a talented team. And that is who they are rather than the loss to Michigan State. But I used to have coaches who would say you're not ever as bad as your worst day. and you're never as good as your best day. And there is a lot of truth to that. But still, I think Iowa is closer to this rating of 20th on the football power index than they are, you know, uh, their record of 6-3 indicates, even though 6-3 is not bad, obviously, but still. And then another thing that people, and then UCLA, let's see where UCLA is at. UCLA, Michigan State is all the way down here at 67th. Uh, UCLA, where are they at? UCLA. Um, no way they're this far down. Let me give me a second to find them real quick, guys. So UCLA is 59th. They are up 4 spots after their victory over Nebraska, who's down 9 spots and is 55th. Another thing that a lot of people get wrong is they think that Iowa's strength of schedule and strength of record is not good. That could not be further from the truth. And I always, always, always tell you guys, I never judge the schedule until the season actually starts because most of the time, as I alluded to, my coach is saying it's never as bad as you thought it was going to be, and it's never as good as a lot of people think or easy as it's going to be. You look at Iowa's schedule, Illinois is better than a lot of people thought. Nebraska, even though they're kind of on a downturn, better than most people. Maybe they are actually about the same. They're either about the same, maybe a little bit better than most people thought. Although, Nebraska always has a certain amount of love that they get. Wisconsin, I'd say, is about the same, maybe a little bit less than people thought, but still, they're meeting to some degree expectations. Iowa State definitely better than people thought. Minnesota definitely better than people thought. Um, so, you know, that's why you can't judge the schedule until the season starts. So, resume. Iowa has the 33rd best strength of record, which is right here, which is the people that they have played to this point. How strong is it? Um, Strength of record reflects chance that an average top 25 team would have team's record or better given the schedule that the team in question has played. Um, and then their strength of schedule is 25th, which is right here, right there. So those people out there saying that Iowa's schedule is easy, it is just nonsense. All right, coming back to this, Garbers, Garber baby, 141 of 216 for 1,700 yards, 10 touchdowns, 9 INTs. Rushing yards, Caleb Johnson continues to be the second leading rusher in the entire country with 1,279 yards and 19 touchdowns. Unbelievable. TJ Harden, 226 yards with 1 touchdown. Receiving yards, Luke Lachey was injured this past week. He has 209 yards on 24 recepts. And then Mataveo, 24 receptions for 303 yards. I think he's the one of the tight ends as well. Here are the last 5 for both teams. UCLA is on a bit of a win streak, defeating Rutgers by 3 and defeating Nebraska. Both these teams defeating them on the road. And a lot of people said when UCLA and USC got into the Big Ten that it would be a rude awakening, them having to travel halfway across the country to play a majority of the Big Ten. And that definitely is something that really is kind of like an isolated thing for UCLA, USC, Washington, and Oregon. Um, Rutgers has seen quite a bit of a downturn. They're 1-4 in Big Ten, 4-4 overall. So it's not the best win in the world. And Nebraska, I think has lost 2 straight. They're 2-4 in Big Ten, 5-4 overall. Iowa 42 to 10 victory over Wisconsin, 40 to 14 win over Northwestern, both at home. Of course, they lost to Michigan State, 40 to 16 win over Washington, 35 to 7 loss to Ohio State, although it was close in the beginning. A team that both these two teams have played is Minnesota, who UCLA lost to at home 21 to 17. The one thing I want to continue to say about Iowa's schedule is the fact that every single win that they have had this year has been a dominant victory. The weather for this game, let's see if that is out there. It's going to be 66 degrees. Oh, great. 66 degrees, and this game is going to be at 6 p.m. So it is going to be at night. All right, guys, let's look at the team stats here. This is scoring offense. Iowa is 45th. They have doubled their scoring output from last year, which is a goal that Tim Lester has had. And on that front, he has been successful. Iowa is averaging 30.8 points per game. Now, of course, when it comes to scoring points, it is a bit situational as far as field position, game situation, time, distance, that whole situation. But of course, ultimately, you have to put the ball in the end zone. You have to score points. And Iowa has done a much improved job of getting touchdowns when they are in the red zone. Early in the year, it was kind of tough for them. But they have gotten much better as the year has gone on. And then, of course, Drew Stevens is one of the best kickers in the Big Ten. Let's see where UCLA is at. I'm sure UCLA is one of the. Oh no, I thought they were going to be top whatever, but I don't see them on the first page here, unfortunately. And of course, UCLA is 126th in scoring offense, much lower than I expected, averaging 18.6 points per game. But again, they are on an uptick, and they do have one of the, according to QBR stat, one of the better quarterbacks in the Big Ten. Scoring defense. Look at Army West Point just killing it. Iowa is 18th in scoring defense, giving up 18 points per game. They continue to climb. Iowa State is ninth. Let's see where Illinois is 32nd, Northwestern 41st. Let's see, and then Wisconsin 37th, who Iowa hung up 42 on. Let's see where UCLA is at. Not seeing them on the first page. Man, there they are, 92nd. They are giving up 27.88 points per game. Not the best again, but they are on an upswing, as I have alluded to a few times. And then this is total offense here. UCLA, again, this is what I was saying. I could have sworn I just saw them here. So UCLA is 124th in total offense, 309 yards a game. Iowa is 95th, which is still better than last year, in which they were last, but still something that Iowa needs to improve on in for Tim Lester year two. I do think that this is serviceable, but Iowa does need to improve slightly in their passing numbers. They need to, in my opinion, have minimum 150 yards passing every single game, and build on the success that they've had running the football this year. They are averaging 356.1 points per game. And then let's see here. And then this is total defense. Iowa is 18th, giving up 309.8 points per game, roughly the same area that their scoring defense is at. Iowa State is 20th. And then UCLA, I'm sure, is probably page 3 if I had to guess, based on their scoring defense. And oh wow, I don't think they are. Oh, they actually might be page two here. Let's see. Man, it really is a hassle trying to find where these teams are at. And UCLA is 59th, giving up 361.6 yards per game. All right, guys, here is my analysis for this game. I don't know if Iowa is going to get back anytime soon. Reese Vanderzee, I think he had a fairly significant injury, but we'll see. I haven't looked at the injury report. So this is what it was going into the game against Wisconsin. I have it on my iPad. Iowa players listed as out: John Nestor, Marco Lainez, who broke his thumb. So he's honestly Marco Lainez or Lainez, aka Marco Lainez, is he's probably out for the season with that thumb. Cade McNamara should be back here relatively soon from concussion. That'll give Iowa some much needed depth to finish the year, especially with how Brennan Sullivan, knock on wood, runs around the football field. But that will essentially move former Colorado State quarterback and at one time Washington scholarship commit Jackson Stratton, who transferred as a preferred walk-on, into the number two role against UCLA if Cade McNamara is not back. But that is why it was very important. Now, of course, if Iowa needs to, they could go to James Razor, who was converted to wide receiver most recently. But actually, I think even he's injured too. So they probably couldn't even go to him. So, unbelievable. But the good news is Iowa is such a dominant run team that whoever it is, they could really just pound the rock and they'd be in some in decent shape. But it has John Nestor, Marco Lainez, Cade McNamara, Reese Vanderzee, and Addison Ostrenga as out. Um, and Luke Lachey as questionable. Um, although Luke Lachey has a good chance of returning against UCLA. And then this is from Covers.com. It has Lainez as questionable, McNamara as questionable, Vanderzee as questionable, Foot, Nestor as questionable, Lachey questionable, and it has Ostrenga out. Um, Not sure 100% what happened to Ostrenga, but I do think he's out for the year. And that's going to give some much needed reps to some of the other younger tight ends like Zach Ortworth, who had a big game against Wisconsin. He's definitely more of a receiving tight end. Ostrenga is too, and then of course, it's given some playing time to Johnny Pascuzzi. So, that is that on the injury front. Here are my thoughts for this game, guys. Iowa needs, of course, to get this victory. I think this is a very winnable game, although UCLA is definitely riding as high as they have ever this season. They have two Big Ten victories in a row. It's never easy to play on the road in the Big Ten. It's doubly hard to go across country to play a team in an environment that you haven't been since 2015, when Iowa played Stanford for the Rose Bowl. So those things are some added aspects that are tough. The good news for Iowa, of course, is they have such a really good defense. Defense travels, and having a elite run game usually travels as well. So Iowa, if they are having a down day, passing the football and really struggling to get that going vis-a-vis Brendan Sullivan, they can really rely on the run game to bring them home. I don't think that that's going to be the case. I think Brendan Sullivan has played in the Big Ten. He has moxie. He has confidence. It'll be. I don't think it'll be any different than what the cards and chips that Iowa has been playing with all year, realistically. So, um, I think they will be fine. To me, the bigger thing is that UCLA is playing with the highest amount of confidence that they have all year. Now, playing a team like Iowa versus a Nebraska team who's like a up and coming, will they, won't they type program. They're like JV. Iowa's like varsity. It's different. Iowa is upper echelon Big Ten. Are they the top of the top Big Ten? Not quite, but they are in that tier one, tier two, top of tier two area. Uh, UCLA always has good athletes. That's something for Iowa to pay attention to. Iowa just really needs to ride Caleb Johnson home, really pound the rock with their elite run game. And for UCLA fans, it's not just Caleb Johnson. As the announcer said for the game against Wisconsin, and I saw some tweets about this, Iowa, their backup running backs are really good as well. It's just Caleb Johnson is having a legendary type season that they're not getting the touches that they normally would have gotten in a season, but they're really good as well. So Iowa just needs to go to that. Brendan Sullivan, of course, needs to play mistake free, be remain level headed, remain on his game plan, and extend the plays, make plays that are there for him to make. And then that's it, guys. I think Iowa is going to win this game. I'll go. I'll go 30 to 13 to give UCLA some extra points. I think Iowa is going to dominate this game, but again, don't let that be misleading. Again, UCLA is playing better than they have. They are riding high, so I would not be surprised if this game is closer. And they do have athletes. UCLA always has athletes, so I would not be surprised if it is actually a closer game, a lot closer game. But I do think that Iowa is playing its best football of the year right now, and they are on an upswing. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. UCLA fans, I hope you enjoyed this as much as you could as well. Be sure to smash the subscribe button, like, comment, share. You guys know the drill. And for all you UCLA fans, of course, I am a Cali boy. So, I know the UCLA program as well as USC. So don't hate too much. I love you guys. Be sure to leave a comment. It helps the video algorithm out. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy willow and facts our feelings, because your feelings just don't matter. I love you, Hawk fans. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.